Deafrowe with Deafrowe closed caption, and I'm back again with another review. And to get this party started for this holidays coming up, I decided I wanted to review a kind of a childhood favorite of mine called Toys, starring Robin Williams, Michael Gambon, or I should say Sir Michael Gambon, Jack Warden, Joan Cusack, Robin Wright, LL Cool J, and some cameo appearances by the great Jamie Foxx as well in this movie called Toys. And I'll be honest with you, this movie did not do great when it came out. This is a movie that I actually begged my parents to rent the VHS of a lot when it was released to the rentals. You know, the one that we used to use all the time was called a movie gallery. So this is a movie that we rented a lot, and for the longest time, I thought this movie was actually a Christmas movie when it's actually not. It just so happens that the beginning of the movie takes place, and it's like a Christmas play that is being put on for the workers of this factory, the Zevo Toys, uh, and that's in my head. I thought, hey, this makes it a Christmas movie. When it really, I mean, honestly, it doesn't, because by the end of the movie, a year has gone by, and they are basically entertaining the employees again with another Christmas play. So it's kind of odd how that plays out, and it's weird that as a kid, I just honestly thought it was a Christmas movie. I mean, maybe it still can be in some ways. Because honestly, when I think of this movie, I think of Christmas time again because of the toys and everything else in it. So, without further ado, we're going to be talking about Toys, 1992, starring the late great Robin Williams. And before I get started on this review, please like, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell so you can see the new stuff that I put out on these obscure reviews that I do of movies that are hard to find, including this movie I'm talking about today, Toys, 1992. Now, just to let you know, this movie can be streamed on only one platform and one platform alone, and that is Stars for some reason. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But Stars is the only place you can stream this movie as of right now, as I'm talking about it. And this movie has not been released physically on a media platform since 2003, and so there's only, if you find one on eBay, for example, it's either going to be a VHS or an old DVD. There's not been ever a Blu-ray release of this of any sort, and nor do I see one coming in the future as well. So let's get started. We start off, like I said, with this Christmas play that's going on, and I didn't notice this as a kid, but I noticed it now rewatching this movie for this review, that the play is actually set inside the studio or inside the factory of Zevo Toys, and it actually looks like a play put on by the kids of the Zevo employees and for the Zevo employees, like, and so because it's taking place in like this little city or whatever that they have displayed. You can see all the employees. They're wearing about the same type of stuff that they would wear if they were on the line or whatever, and making all the toys. So I thought that was kind of cool. Looking at it now, as somebody, I work for a big company myself, and I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to see something like this your employer put on, and maybe get your kids involved in that kind of thing too. Kind of cool. And the movie starts off basically like the owner of Zevo Toys, which is Kenneth. With the name of the character is Kenneth Zevo, which is played by Donald O'Connor. It's called his brother up to basically talk to him before he dies, and he ends up being Michael Gambon's character, or Sir Michael Gambon's character, Lieutenant General Leland Zevo, and he's wanting him to take over the management or the ownership of the company until he sees that until Leslie Zevo, which is Robin Williams' character, his son, is mature enough to take over the company himself when he retires or whatever. And so he's not really wanting to do it because he's like a military guy. He and Kenneth Zevo is telling him, like, look, I know ever since Vietnam you haven't really had your way with the wars and all this kind of stuff. It's like, come here, take this place over, do what you want to do with it. Just keep Leslie and Alsatia, which is the daughter, employed here, and when you retire, they can take over, and maybe they're matured enough, and they, will know how to run things correctly, whatever. And here he is, right here, and he's got this little add-on with a little propeller on the top of it that is beeping and is letting them know, like, it's basically like a early warning system for when his heart's about to go out, and then when the light starts beeping, he just like freezes up and basically starts to have a heart attack or a stroke of some sort. And so, yeah, he's taking off in the ambulance, and he's basically dying very slowly here of a heart attack or a stroke of some sort, and the light's going off on his little hat and everything. He's basically telling Owen Owens, which is played by Arthur Mallet, which is like, he's almost like the caretaker of the place, if you could call it that. I guess you could say a very high up advisor, that is looking over Leslie and Alsatia, but also trying to guide Michael Gambon's character, Lieutenant General Leland Zevo. Anyway, he tells Owen Owens in the ambulance, he's like, I know my brother is probably going to mess this up and make this very difficult, but that's the only way I can see Leslie growing up and actually wanting to take over and make things right. So he has a plan, and he has to put it in place before he dies in order for Leslie to finally, grow a set and take the place over for good and make things right. So he kind of set things in motion before he died. And of course, they have the funeral and everything for him and everything, and they're all there. And of course, in this little scene right here, the greenery and everything in the back is so cool looking, the way that where they filmed this outside. And just a little bit of a note on this, I want to go ahead and tell you about this. All the set scenes were done by Italian designer Fernando Scarfiati. I don't know if I'm saying that last name correct or not. I'm sorry if I'm not. He designed all the sets, which took over every soundstage at Fox Studios when they made this movie. So, and they are just eye candy after eye candy after eye candy, like the folding, the house that folds out and all this kind of stuff. Let's see if I can get back to that. And this little part here with, hey, it's funny when Robin Williams' characters tells them, like, they come to pick him up at the house, and they're like, hey, we're gonna, go together to, wherever or whatever, and and then he's like, well, we want to take Dad's car, and he ends up, it's a bumper car. It's kind of funny. But this scene here, right before, let's see if I can get it just right here. I'm just going to play it right real quick. This scene right here is just pure eye candy. Love that. Like that right there is something that you would have on your, desktop wallpaper right there on your computer, because that is just insanely cool looking. The backdrop, the fold out house, the whole 9 yards. And like I said, all the set pieces took over every soundstage at Fox Studio, and all the outdoor scenes were done in like what is it, like what they call the Paleos region of Washington and north central Idaho, uh, where you see these these wavy pieces of the grass. It looks like grass everywhere when they're riding through, right? Like this scene right here, you see this big rolling hills of grass and everything. It's not really grass. It's actually planted legumes and that kind of thing. But the rolling hills of grass, the way it looks, the planted legumes and everything, makes it look like surreal and everything. It's kind of it works, in my opinion. It's a very cool shots in this movie because of the way they did it, especially in the set scenes and the outdoor scenes are just as much eye candy on both of them. It's crazy what they were able to do. And of course, they have the funeral and everything, and then the general, he's basically saying, "Hey, give me a tour of the plant or whatever, so I can see what needs to be done here," or lieutenant general, whatever you want to call him. And so, yeah, Owen pretty much gives him a tour of the place and everything, and he just, he's not really sure about it, so he has to go visit his dad, which is funny because like his dad's still alive, which would be Leslie Zivo's grandfather and Lieutenant General Zivo's dad. And yeah, it's so funny because he like leans up. He doesn't really say much of anything. It's all gibberish, really. He's capable enough to hit that remote and hit that light to shine the light on his 4 stars on his suit, because Michael Gambon's character doesn't have but 3 stars or something like that. Anyway, it's kind of funny. And you see this escalate further in the show, and it's something I didn't catch till recently. But Michael Gambon's character, Lieutenant General Leland Zivo, if you look closely at the suits as he goes through, as his ego gets out of control and he starts taking over more stuff, and he goes from having the 3 stars that he has on his normal military suit, he creates his own suits for the toy factory, and his own suits start off with like 4 elephants or something like that, and then it like instead of stars they're elephants or something. I can't remember exactly. We'll probably see him, but then by the end of the movie, where he's going totally insane, trying to maintain control of this toy factory or whatever, and his idea or whatever, he ends up with like 5 of something, and I can't remember what he changed. It might be 5 elephants. I'm not sure. We'll see when we get further into this. But yeah, he ends up like making himself a 5-star general of a toy factory. This is kind of hilarious to me. So he decides, yeah, I'm going to take this job. I want to turn this factory around. And the first thing he does, the first thing that catches his attention is the whole espionage thing. So you see here, I'm just going to point out in this picture right here, 1, 2, 3. He's got 3 things up here on the shoulder right here, right? 1, 2, 3, right there. All right. I'm just pointing that out here at the very beginning, and he has a meeting with everybody that he's going to take over and everything, but he's not interested in anything they're talking about until one of them brings up the whole thing with espionage and people stealing their ideas or something like. So he decides to employ his son, which is LL Cool J, aka Captain Patrick Zivo, which ends up being, the cousins of Leslie and Alsatia. As you can see them talking right here, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna have badges. You're gonna have to have badges to get into the toy factory and all this stuff. We're gonna crack down on people just coming and going. We're We're not going to just let anybody walk in anymore and all this other stuff. So, yeah, all that goes on. So the next day, you see LL Cool J's character and his group of people start coming in and like grilling folks on like, hey, what do you do? What do you need access to? And that kind of thing. Like, where are you supposed to be? And basically, I understand what he's doing. He's like limiting people's access to where they actually need to be. It's like, if you work in such and such, you shouldn't need to go into that other room where those other people are because you have nothing to do with that product or the assembly of that product or anything like that. So you limit the access that people have to other stations in the toy factory so you don't have that crossover where people could steal stuff, basically. Anyway, so yeah, you have very, very young LL Cool J in this movie, which is pretty cool in my opinion. He plays one of the cooler characters in the movie where he just has this thing about hiding in plain sight with these different costumes and stuff. It's pretty funny. There's one in the bathroom that's hilarious. Then we finally meet Robin Wright's character, Gwen Tyler, which was hired right before his father passed away. And so Leslie Zevo's having fun with her, trying to cheer her up after Captain LL Cool J's character was kind of interrogating her about what kind of scans she does and all this other stuff. And Leslie comes in there and tries to cheer her up after all that ordeal and, try to make everything right. And then they end up having lunch together and all that kind of stuff, and they just end up talking all the way through lunch until the afternoon. And so Leslie and Leland have like not Leslie, but Captain Patrick Zevo, which is the son of General Leland Zevo. They have like a conversation out in the woods or whatever. And they go see what the competitions got cooked up with video games and that kind of stuff like that. And this is where he gets the idea of creating video games in order to train youngsters hand-eye coordination in order for them to be able to control drones in the future. And it basically be the army of the future. Crazy stuff. And here's a little bit of trivia for you where I got from the IMDb website, which I will leave a link in the description below. And this movie was ahead of its time, which is why it probably didn't get a lot of good critic reviews, because what this guy had in his script was insane at the time. Well, probably people thought it was insane at the time, but actually, Lieutenant General Leland Zevo in this right here mentions building armed toy planes and refers to himself as the General of Tomorrow. Small pilotless aircraft have been used by military since World War I, but the RQ-1 Predator, a system closely resembles General Zevo's idea, entered service 3 years after this movie was released. 3 years after this movie was released. And you'll see that it's a little helicopter that you see towards the end of the movie. Like a drone type helicopter. With missiles and everything. So yeah, this movie was a little bit of ahead of its time. It's almost like he had some insight into some real military intel at the time, 3 years in advance of when they were really wanting to release this stuff. But anyway, so get further along. You got the Lambo SUV, which I love the Lamborghini SUV in this movie. You don't see those Lambo. They were built for military purposes, but you don't see them very often in movies. And of course, Robin Williams' character, he's still flirting with Robin Wright's character. realizing that they're real. He basically realizes that he needs to be in this scene. He needs to be a little bit serious with her because she's goofy just as much as he is, but she doesn't want to go that far with him unless he's serious about a relationship or whatever, and that's kind of what this whole thing is. He's basically like, "Hey, just ride with me, and I'll teach you how to ride." Because she's riding that bike on the road with training wheels in this shot here, which is kind of funny. And like I said, you see that wavy grass in the background like that. That's all planted legumes and stuff like that in Idaho. It's crazy how they were able to get these shots to look like this. And of course, they just this is about the time that Lieutenant General Leland Zevo starts to say, "Hey, I need more space and all this stuff," and because he's wanting to bring in these computer systems and stuff to start, you know, his toy line of military type toys or whatever like that. And as you can see in this scene, like he's taking over so much space that right in the middle of looking over these puke items that they have to scrunch up on the table that they're in the room with. And then like there's one scene in the cafeteria where they're scrunching the cafeteria together. And so a lot of the workers are starting to not be so fun anymore. Like at the beginning, towards the beginning of the movie, when he's taking his first tour of the plant, the workers are like really nice and really, like happy. And throughout the movie, they kind of like lose workers, and workers start to pretty much leave or whatever. And you see this shot here is Alsatia looking for the her dad's gravestone, which is that Kenneth Zevo, which is the one that the dad that died at the beginning of the movie. Well, they put his headstone has his. It's more like a tomb that flies around and changes from place to place depending on the timer, I guess, or whatever it is. And so every time she wants to go see the tomb or whatever, she has to go find it in these rolling fields. And then she finds it, and it's like an elephant. Anyway. Yeah, here you go. Here's a good, lovely shot. This is right here, too. So basically, this elephant is like the tomb of the father, Kenneth Zevo. And ever so often, it's moved to a different place and somewhere else in the field, in the acreage and stuff. It's never in the same place, and so the daughter has a hard time finding it because of that reason. And it's kind of a joke on Kenneth's part. And so he's having like a date with Robin Wright's character, which is Gwen Tyler, in that little what is like a downtown New York set or whatever. And all of a sudden, the set is being bombarded with a bulldozer or whatever because they need more room because he needs to make more room for his military war games or all this stuff. And he's finally, Robin Williams' character is finally starting to see like I better do something about this or this is going to get too far. And of course, you see Ken there. Kind of funny. And I just want to point this out right here. Like I said, he changes his military outfits to make it look like a toyish military outfit. And notice, like I said, 1, 2, 3. Now he's got 4 on his collar. And those 4, I think they're elephants. I'm not quite sure. I have to keep getting a closer look at them. But now he's got like basically portraying that he's got 4 stars now. And then at this point, Alsatia and Leslie, they decide they got to find out more information about what's going on. And so they set up this, elaborate ploy to get the security guards off their back so they can get into the secure areas that they hadn't been allowed into because of General Zero. So they do this elaborate thing to make the security guards think they're watching MTV or whatever. Yolanda and Steve, which is actually pretty decent, to be honest with you. It looks like something out of a Genesis video. Anyway, so he finally gets in. He sees these kids playing these video games where they're like flying helicopters, tanks, and that kind of stuff, and it looks like drones, and they're basically teaching them how to do these things. And he falls into this pit with like this pig thing or whatever. And then enters Jamie Foxx's character, which is like one of the surveillance guys that basically rides around he's like surveilling the entire factory throughout the movie. So now we get here, and this is when you reach peak insanity for General Zevo, because as you can see now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5. I don't know what they are. It could be still elephants. I'm not sure. But he's basically got 5 stars on his collar is what he's trying to portray. So he's gone full giant ego. I'm going to take this place over and make it a military installation. And he even gets like a in this little part here, he gets like a meeting with some DOD Pentagon officials or whatever to market to them, this drone technology that he's wanting to do. And of course they don't go along with it, and he gets all drunk and stuff. And apparently this was supposed towards the beginning of the movie, this is like the nurse of the old General Zevo. And she basically hooks up with General Zevo, Michael Gambon's character, and then you find out here that she was actually like the girlfriend of Captain Patrick Zevo, which is the son of Elon, and he finds out that she's been messing around with him, and like, okay, that's enough. And that's when Captain Patrick Zevo decides to defect and go over to Leslie and Alsatia's side and try to bring down General Zevo's takeover. And so they decide they're going to attack and try to take down the place. And of course he's tracking everything on the monitors that they're doing. And he's got like these little tanks with heads on them with missiles and everything. They're going in. And they end up in this warehouse where all the old toys were just like stashed away. Because they figured out these new toys, these army toys or whatever, that have all the missiles and basically like drones, the tanks and the helicopter especially. They respond to motion, and so they decide to use all these old toys, wind them all up, and just send them towards the military toys so they can make their getaway and try to stop Michael Gambon's character, Lieutenant General Zevo. So that's what they do. So while all those army toys are targeting the old toys, they make their way towards Lieutenant General Zevo. As you can see here, he was hiding the whole time in the set pieces. And then finally, Leslie Zevo gets on that plane that's being hanged. If you watch the movie at the beginning of the movie, you see this plane with Santa Claus in it is dropping presents from the airplane or whatever. Leslie gets in that airplane that's being held by the wires to make his way over to General Zevo. That's when he finally gets to him. It's like, give up yet? So they finally basically they end up making. Towards the end of the movie, you see that Lieutenant General Leland Zevo is taken out by that little military operation that he had going on in the water, which was like some type of cross between a hippopotamus and some basically like something out of a James Bond type movie, like a weird animal with lasers or whatever. Anyway, and at the end of this movie, we have another like Christmas play with the employees and everything else. As you can see here, you got Santa Claus in the airplane again, dropping that kind of stuff. So yeah, they basically were able to get control of the factory. You find out Alsatia is not really a human; she's actually a toy. So you know he's got to put her back together, right? Anyway. So yeah, we get there, and you finally see, basically. I'll take a drink here. They end up together towards the end of the movie. She's put back together, and that's towards the end. Like I say, at the end of the movie, at the credits, you see the elephant tomb basically just being moved around, probably by a helicopter or some sort. But this part right here is pretty funny to me. I'm trying to see if I can get a little snippet of it. And all these soldiers going by and stuff, and basically, Michael Gambon's character, Lieutenant General Leland Zevo, is sitting in bed next to his father, old General Zevo, and they're basically seeing all these toy soldiers go by and just like saluting them towards the end of the movie. So basically, he doesn't get killed or anything. They don't, obviously, but he does retire and just basically decides to sit in the bed with his father at the end of the movie. It's kind of funny. Anyway, I want to see if I can't find a certain thing. Let's see if I can find it. But this is what I was talking about when it comes to the drone right here. I think this is it right here. You see this helicopter drone come in. Right here. Yep. And it is armed. So that's what they're talking about 3 years in advance here, right here. That this movie had predicted. I mean, this movie was ahead of its time, let's put it that way. Great stuff. In my opinion, this was a great movie. It is easily a 4.5, almost 5-star movie for me. 4.5. I grew up thinking this was a Christmas movie when it really wasn't. Which is why I kind of wanted to talk about it here in November before we got to Christmas. But it does have a Christmas feel to it because of the toys and that kind of stuff to it, And the beginning and end, it begins with one Christmas and ends with another Christmas, at the end of another year gone by, and Leslie has matured. It's like a hero's journey for Leslie that he has to go through this with his uncle in order to get this business straightened out like it should be and run it like his father would want to run it, instead of just, slacking off and, doing all this other stuff that he was doing. You see throughout the movie that he just basically makes a joke out of everything, and towards the end he realizes he has to take responsibility for all this stuff and mature in order to keep everything going like it was going before, and keep employees happy and all this other stuff, and keep toys being made that are innocent and not driven by greed or wealth, or not wealth, but by somebody wanting to participate in war, basically, and make toys, toys of war, I guess you could say, is what he was trying to do. I mean, and look where we are today. crazy stuff. That might be it might be the reason why you can only stream this on Stars. You know, they don't want you to see it. But anyway, but that's my review. Hope you enjoyed that review. This review of Toys 1992. One of my favorites, if not my number one Robin Williams movie, but one of my favorite top 5 Robin Williams movies. My number one Robin Williams movie will always be Hook, and I'll talk about that at another time. That is peak Robin Williams for me, growing up as a kid, and this might be an easy number 2 or number 3 in the top 5 Robin Williams movies for me, because I just really love this movie. I know it didn't get a lot of love when it came out, and it's still not getting a lot of love now because they still haven't released a physical copy of this movie since 2003. It's right now out of print, and only one place to watch it streaming, which is the Stars. So, let you know how much they really care about this movie. It should get more love, to be honest with you. It's all-star cast. I mean, really an all-star cast. I mean, you got Sir Michael Gambon, who went on to play Dumbledore, the second version of the older Dumbledore in the original Harry Potter movie series. So, I mean, it doesn't get better than that. And then you got Robin Wright, who plays the love interest, Gwen Tyler, who was Buttercup in The Princess Bride. You got LL Cool J and then Jamie Foxx as well. I mean, it's crazy how much talent is in this movie, just in the acting alone. And then on top of that, you have the set designs of this movie are insane eye candy. And then you have the outdoor scenery, the outdoor visuals, the outdoor shots that were gotten with this movie, and this little road that looks like it's in the middle of nowhere, of all this crazy green grass. I mean, it's a fun movie to watch. So, like I said, and then this crazy little elephant that's just blowing bubbles out of its trunk that just flies off everywhere it wants to, because you gotta go find your tomb, your dad's tomb somewhere. I mean, it's a funny joke. I mean, how fun would that be, or how much of a smile would it put on your face if every time you went to go see your parents' grave or something, and if their sense of humor was of the sort where the grave, moved to, 6 feet over, or like to the other side of the graveyard or whatever, and you had to go find it basically every time you went to the graveyard. It'd be kind of funny. Honest with you, it'd be kind of funny. It put you in a better mood every time you went to the graveyard. I'm just being honest here. Anyway, that's my review of Toys 1992. I'll catch you out on the edge of another review next weekend, maybe. That's Deafrowe out. Bye.